All right, all right. We are rolling. Welcome to episode, I believe this is episode 16, and we have two special guests with us. We got Matt McGinley, my longtime neighbor, and we have Christian Rosa. Now, both of these guys been on this show at least once already. So let's give them a warm welcome. What's going on, guys? How you guys doing?
Good, man.
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. So we have some stuff that we're going to cover, and this is actually going to be a pretty cool episode because we're kind of switching it up a little bit. We're getting away from the sports. We're getting away from anime. We're getting away from music, and we decided to do something special. And we're going to talk about cryptocurrency. We're going to talk about Bitcoin, and I believe that this is something that I was pretty much looking forward to. And I know, Christian, I know you were definitely looking forward to talking about this
Yeah.
because on my other podcast, Matt McGinley glanced over it a little bit,
Yep.
but it wasn't enough, and you wanted more. So here we are, about 6 months later, and we're going to get into this thing. And this is actually good for me because I am an outsider looking in. So I don't know how any of this stuff works. So who's ever tuning in to this, I'm sure you might want to get, I don't know, maybe a notepad and a pen and jot some stuff down. But we're gonna we're gonna give you a lot of information about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, how it works, and I'm with two guys that they're well equipped on the information. Opposed to me, I'm just an outsider looking in. So I mean, shit. I mean, we could really just get into it right now. So how long? So how long have you guys been investing in Bitcoin or cryptocurrency?
Go ahead, Matt.
Since 2013, it's been 11 years. It's been a long time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he outdid me. I've been in it about 5.
Okay, gotcha. And for you guys, like the questions that I have, it's kind of surface level because you know I don't know anything about Bitcoin, or cryptocurrency. So obviously, we know how a dollar works, correct? And we see the dollar, we see the money. So exactly how does what is Bitcoin or what is cryptocurrency, or is Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, is it all the same, like the same shit?
Yeah. Christian, if you want to go first, you
Yeah,
can.
you got it. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So I was going to say, my goal of trying to explain this is I think when people hear about Bitcoin today, most of them go, "Oh, I invested in that and the price is either up or down." And then, or they'll say, "Oh, a friend invested in it and the price is up and down." And they're only concerned about the price in the chart. And to me, that doesn't really make too much sense because what you're saying is you don't know anything actually about Bitcoin and like the properties that it has. I mean, like what you're basically doing is you're almost like saying like you're looking at like the Apple chart and seeing the price of like Apple the company as opposed to all the things that Apple built, like the iPhone, the success of its network, how big that is, the software they have, and the computers. Like all those things are what has given Apple the stock value. So Bitcoin, the stock, or you're looking at the price chart or whatever, there's a reason why it's the price that it is. And it's because it has certain properties that make it really valuable. So the way that I would explain like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is, well, there's at this point there are tens of thousands of other cryptocurrencies. Just like there are a bunch of different like social networks and stuff,
Right,
but people tend to converge on like a couple good ones, like Instagram, Facebook. Like anyone can go and create another Instagram. It doesn't take much. Like
right.
I could code one in 20 minutes, but no one would really adopt it because you already have Instagram, you already have Facebook, it already has that network effect. But the way that I would like to explain Bitcoin and the way it works is I think it's really important to understand it's money. And so the way that Bitcoin was invented was by a guy named Satoshi Nakamoto, and what he did was he solved a really popular computing problem called the Byzantine generals problem, and because of that, Bitcoin was able to be born. But so the way Bitcoin works is like, so we're talking over YouTube, right? So
Yeah,
YouTube is a software program
or not
that's
even StreamYard.
Yeah, but like people are going to
Platform,
see
yeah.
this on
Right,
YouTube.
right.
But YouTube is a software program with certain properties to it that make it really good for sharing videos and for uploading videos. Instagram is a software program that makes it really good for sharing pictures and sharing videos and stuff like that. So Bitcoin is a software program that maximizes all the values and attributes of money. And because of that, it's the best money we've ever had. And in the world today, we have a bunch of different things that are money. You know, you have the dollar.
Right.
In Europe, you have the euro. Um, and throughout time and history, we've used a lot of different things as money. We actually used to use seashells and like minerals, like fucking rocks.
Rocks.
Money.
Yep.
Yeah. And so people who were in the mountains would trade rocks and minerals for seashells with people at the beach and vice versa. And the reason why we use this as money at the time is, well, we didn't really have anything else. But
Okay.
there's certain properties to money. So if you're at home, what I would do is I would go to Google and I would type in gold versus fiat versus Bitcoin, and you should get a chart that looks like this.
And then I'll make sure after this whole video, I'll edit and put the chart there so people can actually see it.
So one of the things, if you notice, there's gold over here in the middle, and we've used gold as money for a really long time.
Right.
So why did we use gold as money for a really long time? Because what we realized was that it was really rare, and that people all liked gold, and it's also hard to find. And because it's hard to find, um, it's hard to for it to lose its value, basically.
Right.
So if you think about, trying to think of a good example. If you think of like this is going to sound ridiculous, but imagine if shoes were money, for example. Shoes would really suck as money because, like, let's say you want to get a haircut, right? Are you going to give someone half a fucking shoe? You'd have to give them a whole shoe, and it have to be
Right.
the exact size or whatever.
Right.
So in history, we've had everything exist on like this spectrum of like bad money to good money. And so Bitcoin, because of these properties, we've figured out that there's a few things that are really important with money. We want them to be, you know, if you're looking at this chart, you want them to be verifiable. You want to know that, you know, when you're using whatever money it is, that it's legit. So a lot of gold is actually, it can be made fake pretty easily. You can just have it like gold plated, but the inside of it is not actually gold.
Gotcha.
Dollars can be counterfeited, but if you own a Bitcoin wallet and someone sends you a Bitcoin transaction, it works every single time. Like you can verify it for sure. This one called fungibility, if you see.
And like I said, I'm going to drop the chart so people can it'll be a better picture.
Yeah. Also, if I'm saying anything and you aren't following or want me to go into more detail, please ask, because it's not super easy to understand, and it takes some time. But so fungibility is just this concept of, is each one the same? Like is one Bitcoin? They're all the same. The shoes example, right?
Yeah.
Someone might like Jordan, someone else might like Adidas. So the fungibility of shoes, for example, they're not all uniform. They're not all the same. Good money is all the same. It also needs to be portable. So this is why gold failed. If you look at the chart again, gold is low in portability.
I see.
Bitcoin is high. So imagine trying to send gold to someone. Like if you only have to do it, you only could really do it in person. You can maybe do a little bit by mail, but the ability to send money to someone, gold is a complete failure here. So that's why gold has never really been like the ideal money. And again, it's just a shiny rock, but
Yeah.
because of certain properties with it, it made it really good for like storing value.
So real quick, I'm sorry to cut you off. So what I'm getting from this is that, like you said, you can't counterfeit Bitcoin, which
right.
is cryptocurrency, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm just making sure, because it makes it like I get it. It like makes sense to where a dollar, like you said, like a dollar, it's money, but it can also be counterfeited to where gold as well. It can also be counterfeited to where cryptocurrency in this in this sense, Bitcoin, it cannot be um counterfeited.
Correct.
Okay, all right, I
So
get it.
so the chart where it says where it says divisibility or divisible, and again, Bitcoin is really high here, gold is
Yeah.
low, and
Okay.
fiat is moderate. So what that means is one Bitcoin can be broken down into, like, if you really wanted to, you could break it down into like 1/100th millionth of a
Well,
Bitcoin, which would actually
well,
enable.
it's actually called Satoshis. They break them down by Satoshi. One Satoshi, I believe, is like a thousandth or a thousandth of a whole Bitcoin, or a millionth of a whole Bitcoin, or something like that. But they actually break it down, and that's how they usually count it.
I think it's a millionth of a Bitcoin,
Yeah, I think you're right. A millionth of a Bitcoin, correct?
but if we really wanted to, if Bitcoin became worth so much money that like 1 millionth of a Bitcoin is like $1, and you had to go and divide it even further, you can divide it even further. You could
Yeah,
divide
yeah,
it. You
yeah,
could divide it a trillion times.
yeah,
So Bitcoin is basically infinitely divisible, which can enable things like micropayments, which would be really cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And
Fiat
then
currencies, they can kind of do that, but not to the same level. And then again, this is a good example of why gold has not really stuck around as money, because you can't really. It would be super hard to divide gold. It already costs a lot in such a small amount.
Right.
And actually, so I don't know if people understand what fiat means. Fiat just means value by decree, which is just a fancy way of saying that the government says it's worth something, therefore it is. Um,
as long as the people think it's worth something, then it's worth something. But
yeah,
if we don't see it worth something, then it's not worth anything.
So
Is that right, Matt?
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Andreas
so
Antonopoulos has a talk about how people in India, the Indian government started. There were certain dollar bills that they refused to accept, and so their value was supposed to end up becoming worthless. And however, those bills still existed and were circulating around, even though the government said they were valueless. People were still using them. They retained, like, it was like 70 or 80% of their value for like years. And the point was, psychologically speaking, like, even though your government told you this was worthless, all the people still wanted to use it, and therefore it still had value, which is really cool and really interesting to learn, like, the psychology of money and how it works. But
all right, so
you were going to say something?
yeah, so this is gonna sound a bit confusing because I'm kind of confusing myself at the same time, but I like get it up here. All right, so a penny is a penny, right? It's worth 1 cent. 5 cents is a nickel, dime, 10 cents, et cetera, et cetera. So when you guys are talking about breaking down a Bitcoin, how does a Bitcoin actually work? So what is a Bitcoin and how much is a Bitcoin worth, or is a Bitcoin worth what you invest into it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you want to go, Christian?
You got it. Go ahead.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, you got it.
So, all right.
But do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I think so. Hold on.
Okay.
So you're just trying to ask, like, $1 is $1. So what makes the price of a Bitcoin?
Yeah, because we have
Or you're
multiple.
comparing it to a dollar?
It could be okay. So like when we say, like, give me $1, give me $5, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, so how do we know how much a Bitcoin is? So like, is the coin? Oh man, it's like I'm confusing myself, but I understand it. It's like when you invest into Bitcoin, what you invest into Bitcoin, does that make up for your Bitcoin? Like, you understand what I'm saying? So it's like, if you invest $100 into Bitcoin, is that Bitcoin $100, and you break down that Bitcoin? I
Hold on. Let me.
understand what I'm trying to say.
I think I
I
know
was
what you're
gonna.
trying to say.
So I've been looking to pull up a chart. That was my goal.
Okay.
So the price of one Bitcoin, if you were to buy one right now, It's
Yeah.
$67,000 and $67,605.
It's
So
67,000 to buy a Bitcoin right now.
One whole
right,
Bitcoin, yes.
One
but
whole Bitcoin.
Yes.
Okay.
so
Whole
if you
Bitcoin.
bought $100 worth, you would have a fraction of a Bitcoin. You would have $100 worth of Bitcoin at the price of 67,605. So it's like 0.001
Oh,
Bitcoin or something like that.
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
probably
Makes
less
sense.
than that. But yeah.
So here's I was just going to get to the really exciting point on this chart is the one called scarcity, where it says Bitcoin is high, gold is moderate, and fiat is low. So all money goes through the same cycle. It starts off as a collectible, then it becomes a store of value. And a store of value is, as straightforward as it sounds, can it store value? Can you put money into it or value into it? And across time, it either keeps its value or goes up in value, or it loses its value slowly. Then the third part of the cycle of money is a medium of exchange. And then the last one is a unit of account. Unit of account just means like you price everything in dollars. Like when a brand new car is $20,000, you don't think of it as 1/3 of a Bitcoin, for example.
Right.
That makes sense.
Right.
Like when Bitcoin becomes so ubiquitous in society, then it will probably become a unit of account, and people will start pricing things in Bitcoins, or they'll call them millibits, or it's 1,000 satoshis.
Mm-hmm.
So gold is a good store of value. Gold is a pretty damn good store of value. Across time, it keeps accruing value.
Okay.
However, it's not a good medium of exchange. And so
Right.
that's where Bitcoin steps in and simultaneously is a better store of value and a better medium of exchange. But so if you listen to all this so far, you're probably fucking confused, honestly. But that's okay. Because first time you hear this, it is confusing. But this is
it's
what
it,
should be
it's like
really
it's like making sense, but I think it's one of them things where I just have to hear it a bit more in order to make
Yeah.
more sense, because I do understand the whole concept of you saying, like you can't counterfeit a Bitcoin, you know what I mean? Or
yeah.
or the value of a Bitcoin is more valuable than a dollar or gold, because breaking it up and stuff like that. So I completely understand that whole concept. It's just like, yeah, what you're saying or what you said before, it's kind of like, it's like I get it, but it's like I don't
It's
fully understand. You know
it's
what I
kind of
mean?
crazy though, because like we weren't taught any of this stuff in school. Like what is money? The
No,
history of money, like
no,
how
not at all.
what makes it money, you know?
And
And
I think it's very important that
and
they
yes,
probably should
it's
have went over
very
all that.
yes. And like as a person who uses money every day, money is, very important to everyone.
Of
Why
course.
why wouldn't people just go out their way, even though we weren't taught in school, to learn about it?
Yeah.
You know, it's very important to learn about stuff like that because it just helps you, like
Oh
just like
yeah.
anything else.
100%.
So what was I gonna say? Shit.
Talking about medium of exchange.
Yeah. Okay, so wait. All right. So here's where it gets really exciting. I'll make this super exciting really quick. So the price of one Bitcoin is 67,000. This is a better way to look at it, right? All the gold in the world right now is worth like $15 trillion, $16 trillion. All the Bitcoin in the world is worth like $1.2 trillion. It is worth like 12 times less than all the gold.
Yeah.
So when we go back to this chart about it being scarce,
Yeah.
so for gold it says moderate. Every year
There's
we
more
mine
gold
about
found.
like 2% more gold. So if we have 1,000 ounces of gold, the next year we have 1,020 ounces of gold. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
So the amount of gold that exists inflates at a rate of about 2%. For Bitcoin, it's zero. No one can ever create any more Bitcoin. So to kind of imagine
Okay.
how drastic that is, so the analogy I like to use is like imagine a water bottle. So, but in this water bottle, it's holding all your value. So instead of water, it's value, right?
Yeah.
Now, gold has a little bit of a leak in it, has a little bit of a hole, and every year 2% of that value pours out of it, right?
Gotcha.
With Bitcoin, we invented a water bottle that has no leaks. It can't lose its value over time from that way. So to me, that's super exciting to think about. But
Gotcha.
again,
No, I was gonna say, but also the water bottle gets bigger over time. I feel like that's another way
yes,
to look at it too,
Because it's not leaking,
because
correct?
it's not leaking, but the value of it is also going up because there's not any more being found. Just like gold, nothing's being mined, so the value of it goes up because it's so scarce. As
yes.
long as
Well,
people see it as valuable.
well, the water bottle analogy kind of falls out of place here, but you're right in the sense that more people realize that this water bottle is awesome, and
Yeah,
because it's so awesome, they want to buy more of it. But water is like, not scarce, but yeah, that's kind of the
yeah,
idea.
yeah.
But there's other countries around the world where, so what he was talking about with inflation. So one of the reasons gold failed as money, because it was not a great medium of exchange, it was hard to do business with. That's what
Right.
created like fiat currency. That's what created dollars,
What
because it
do
was
you
a
want
lot
to
easier for
do? You want
us.
to touch on the fiat being backed by gold? I feel like that will end the government dropping that.
Yeah, that was the original point of dollars. Is that $1 was supposed to represent a certain amount of gold, and that was the
Oh,
idea. It was
really?
like an IOU, right? And
Gotcha.
then and then in the 1930s, they actually confiscated all the gold. They did it here in the United States. They did it to a bunch of different countries in the world where the gold was confiscated from you because who knows what fucking reason. It ended up having value basically, and
Yeah.
governments needed it to be able to fund different things. And then in 1971, we went off the gold standard entirely. $1 was now no longer tied to the amount of gold that existed anymore. It used to be an IOU, and now governments basically realize that we can just give people this money and they'll still believe that it's money and it still has value. And it does
Well,
still have.
what was happening though in reality was they were giving notes to people, and they were giving notes to people and saying that we owe you this much, and basically instead of the gold being um, transported to people, there were just notes being sent out like an IOU, and the gold would still be sitting in the same place. So it had gotten to a point where they realized this piece of paper is really all that matters, not the gold, because the gold isn't getting moved anywhere. They'll just give an IOU, and back and forth, the gold doesn't move. So I believe
Mm.
that is why they dropped the gold standard, because they realized all they needed was paper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what ended up also happening that was really important when they went off the gold standard is it now gave the government the ability to create as much money as they wanted. They could print as many dollars
Yeah,
as they wanted. And then
because
they could
nothing
use
backed
that
it. Yep.
yeah, and then they could use it in whatever ways that they wish that they would want to. And so it's very unfortunate because I always think like theoretically, a government would be able to create more money and use it in a way that would be more equitable and it'd be able to help out people. But what often happens is it goes the complete opposite way. If there's just one quote that I could give you to explain why money printing is terrible, is Janet Yellen just like 2 months ago at the beginning of like the Israel Palestine conflict.
Yeah.
She was so Janet Yellen is the Treasury Secretary of the United States. Basically, she looks over like what we're investing in and our money
Yeah.
and what we're doing with it, right? So there was an interview. She went on TV. We're at war with Ukraine and Russia. We have that going on. We have inflation that's sticking around in the United States. And the interviewer goes, can the United States afford to handle another war, like talking about Israel and Palestine? And
Right.
her answer back was, the United States can definitely we can afford another war, no problem at all. And if that's really all you need to hear. They said it from their mouth that
Yeah.
they have money for war, but they do not have money for healthcare. They do not have money for social programs. They do not have money for affordable education. They have money for fucking war. And how do they do that? They can just print more money. There's literally nothing stopping them from doing that, and that is exactly what they do. And now they will tell you that, oh, we can't just create unlimited amounts of money. They literally can.
Yeah.
They know that it ends up devaluing the money that we currently have, but they will use it for their purposes and their purposes first before the needs of everyone else.
And that's the downfall of the currency being centralized, which is one power owning it all, basically, and controlling it. As to being decentralized, which is what Bitcoin is, there's no entity that owns Bitcoin or the technology behind it. So, therefore, it's more so for the people
Right.
as a whole.
Basically, the dollar allows a couple of people who we didn't really elect. Like, you can elect Biden, you can elect Trump or whatever, but you can't elect Janet Yellen. And they can create unlimited amounts of money to do whatever they want with. Or on a Bitcoin standard, they prevent that from anyone being able to have that power. So basically, Bitcoin has certain properties. It is more secure. You can send it anywhere. You can receive it anywhere. It's infinitely divisible. It promises also, it has an economic promise that it will never devalue your currency. It will never allow anyone to do that.
And it's proven that over the past 15 years.
Right. So to me, this economic promise, what it means for all the other countries in the world is that when you want to store your money in something, it is going to maintain its value better than anything else over a long time frame. In short time frames, Bitcoin can be volatile. It can go up and down, but it only goes up and down because the people who are participating in it choose that they want to sell or they want to buy, which is totally fair. That's how it should be. But you are never losing value because someone else decided to make it worth less, in terms of like someone created more Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So that's really the difference. That's really what makes Bitcoin special. And when you look at like a lot of different countries in the world, like people in Venezuela, like their currency will go from, it will get devalued like 70% in a year. Imagine having $10,000 saved, and 1 year later, that $10,000 is worth $3,000.
I feel like that's how it is. It is now with money.
That's how the price
with
of
money
things
now.
go up.
Yeah, dude. Like
it's like you looking at it and you think the price of stuff is going up, but really the value of a dollar is going down.
Oh yeah,
that's the reality of looking at it.
There's a couple really interesting things that are going on. So Axios just put out an article recently that since the beginning of the COVID pandemic, so early 2020 until today, the inflation that we've just seen accumulated over these 4 years, not just this past year, all 4 years, it's like 25%. So your grocery bill, if it was $100 a week, is now $125 a week. And then we all know like how hard it is to fucking buy a home. It's up like 40% in the past 4 years. That's absolutely crazy. So here's one really interesting dynamic that I don't think
this real quick. This makes me think, how the fuck was I surviving minimum wage like 15 years ago? Like, holy fuck. Now that I'm thinking about it, yeah.
Well,
like
minimum wage.
Yeah, bro. I was at McDonald's making like $7.35. Like, holy fuck. Oh my god.
I want you to also think about how minimum wage hasn't budged, and yet the price of everything has doubled since the $7 was enacted in like 2000 something.
Fucking nuts.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But oh damn, what was my point? I had another point. I can't remember it off the top of my head.
You was talking about homes and homes being up.
Oh, yeah. I have a great point on this.
30%, I think, or something like that.
So the other thing that happens with our money not being a good store of value, that it keeps getting inflated away, is that people who are financially literate understand this. They understand that if they had $100,000 in their bank account in 2020, that it's now worth like 75,000. So you want to know what they do? They don't store their money in dollars. They move it to other things. They put it in the stock market. They put it into real estate. And that is exactly why the stock market is way higher than what it was at the beginning of the COVID pandemic. And it's also why homes are worth way more. And here's a really interesting thing to think about. If we had really strong money money that maintained its value through time, would people stop buying homes to store their wealth in? They would. And what would
Yeah.
that mean? That would mean that homes would be worth less. That instead of using them as this vehicle to store your wealth in, they would be used just to be able to live in, because that's the purpose of them.
Yeah.
Right.
So, so Bitcoin actually creates this really interesting dynamic where Bitcoin is going to be better at maintaining value through time than homes will. And this is why everyone, even if you don't own Bitcoin, should be rooting for Bitcoin to be super successful. Because if it is, it will suck the store of value proposition out of homes. It will mean that homes will end up trending towards their actual value for people to live in instead of the speculative instrument to be able to maintain its value through time because people's money sucks. So that's why if you ever hear people talk about in Bitcoin, they say like fix the money and it'll fix the world. It's kind of true in that if we had really good money, it would allow people to be able to invest in things like homes or be able to buy homes at much more reasonable prices.
Yep.
But that's I know that's like out there, like really hard to understand the connection between that when you're first learning about Bitcoin and how it can influence these things. But
Yeah.
here's some really practical advice that I've been trying to convince friends to do, and this is my personal plan. What I've been doing since I've been involved in Bitcoin for 11 years at this point, I realized that instead of saving 100% of my wealth in dollars, I started saving 90% of my wealth in dollars and 10% in Bitcoin, and then a little bit in Ethereum as well. But I've just been doing that year after year after year, and that compounds to be some pretty big numbers. So the practical takeaway I would say to anyone listening is, so instead of saving 100% of your wealth in dollars, maybe
Yeah.
save 5% of it in Bitcoin.
Mm. And then in order to invest in Bitcoin, there is an app, correct? Because I think I remember like a
Few
while back
apps.
you told me about the app, and I think I
Yeah,
downloaded it and such and such. But that's as far as I got with it. And
so you say Coinbase?
this was so long ago. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This was so long ago too. Crazy.
Yeah, you can download the Coinbase app for free. And so you get Bitcoin. The signing up for it is just like signing up for PayPal. It's just like signing up for Venmo. You
Yeah,
give an email, a username, you link your bank account. The only
yeah.
difference is you just click buy to buy some Bitcoin. That's it. It's literally, dude. Even the color scheme is the exact same as PayPal. Like they make it super simple.
Gotcha, gotcha.
But what I would
Dang,
say
okay, so
too, what I would say too is, yes, if my action for someone, if they are like, oh, this sounds really cool, this sounds interesting, I keep hearing about this makes some sense to me, download
invest,
Coinbase.
just invest,
Now,
just fucking
seriously,
invest.
download Coinbase, put $10 in. Not if you got $10,
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
but put it in and just see how it works and realize that you just bought Bitcoin. Watch it fluctuate, watch the price go up and down, watch it change, and just start learning about this yourself.
Good way to go
Gotcha.
about it.
Yeah, when I
The
saw, go ahead.
I was going to say I am really fortunate because the first person that I really started listening to on this was Andreas Antonopoulos. I heard a talk from him. He is the best dude at explaining this.
Is
It
this the
made
book
sense.
that you told me about, or you told me to get and I got, or was that a different guy? I forget the
Uh,
name.
I think it's the same one. Was the book
Okay.
The Internet of Money?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We talked about this like a few days ago. Okay, so it's the same guy.
Yeah.
I have that
I
book somewhere floating around. I'd have to find it. It's probably in the closet somewhere.
I actually made a website that explains Bitcoin, and I have a bunch of links to it with like talks from Andreas Antonopoulos and
I
some
could
other
probably
people
link
I know.
all that stuff. If you send me the link, I could probably link all that stuff like in the description when I post this video. I
Good
think it'll
idea.
be useful and helpful for the new people that are tuning
Want to
in.
learn about it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, another thing I wanted to talk about was the technology behind Bitcoin and what makes it work the way it is.
Yeah.
So it's blockchain technology. You got to think about it like the way the world is changing before our eyes with technology in general, everything is paid online, like a debit card, the way banks transfer monies from one another. It's not like they physically take dollars. I mean,
Mm,
they do, but not, they type it in a computer, that's it, enter, bang, money's transferred,
yeah.
So the technology behind Bitcoin is blockchain. And the easy way to sum it up is just when you buy a Bitcoin, you get a new code and it's put on a block per se, and each block has its own code for the individual person, and it can be seen by anybody. Like every transaction that someone makes, anybody in the world can see it. So it's open to everybody. So it's it's just something that it's decentralized. There's nobody that controls it, so it's just for the people. And I know I'm probably not that great at explaining it because it is confusing. It's something that you have to do a good amount of research in to really know it. But yeah, just the way the world's going, technology. If you really look at it from the outside in, it totally makes sense. Like once I started researching it and got to know it, everything just clicked for me. Like I just saw how it all works and where the dollar bill is going now and how technology is going. Like for instance, the dot-com bubble in the late '90s. I don't know if you guys remember when computers first came out. It was like a big deal. Like
Yeah.
everyone started getting on it. It was called the dot-com bubble. Um, so that the way people inherited that, it grew very fast, and the way that crypto is growing nowadays, they say it's growing exponentially faster than the dot-com bubble did back in the late '90s. So
Mm,
that gives you kind of a view of how fast crypto is trending, and it's just becoming more mainstream as time goes by and as we become more um, dependent on you know the internet.
yeah. So Bitcoin will be it.
Yes, I believe
I
it
would
already is it. Just people just don't see it yet. It's not
Gotcha.
mainstream.
Right.
I would say one of the things that maybe someone might say is like, well, aren't there a bunch of other like cryptocurrencies? How do you know that Bitcoin's going to be the one that succeeds? And then my answer to that would be, well, if you look at that chart again and it's talking about like all the different values of money, again, like it's already programmed to have like the best attributes of money that we can really come up with. So for example, like there's not another like Facebook that has really like come along and surpassed Facebook.
Right.
Um, so I would say it would be really hard to create anything that would be able to surpass Bitcoin in all of these properties since they're already kind of like maxed out. Like for example, like you already can't create any more Bitcoin. Like another cryptocurrency that comes along that promises you that they won't devalue you, Bitcoin already does that. So there's not really another purpose for that. Also, there's certain things that you can't copy with Bitcoin that it already has like this really powerful network effect. Like on Facebook, all your friends are already on there. With Bitcoin, what he's talking about with blockchain technology, you have a bunch of different like miners that are already mining the Bitcoin that provide it power and security. Like if someone else creates another cryptocurrency, you can't copy all that. Like
Yeah.
there's literally millions of people that are mining Bitcoin. They won't just switch over to another one like that. It would take a lot of time and effort. So I can't honestly, like, I can't imagine a world where Bitcoin gets displaced by another cryptocurrency. I think it's pretty much a lock. The only other one that really interests me is Ethereum. Well, there are some other ones that are really cool, but
Solana,
probably the only one
but
I feel confident in outside of Bitcoin, like truly succeeding, like for sure at this point, is probably Ethereum.
yeah,
I mean,
Gotcha.
Solana possibly could. Some of the meme coins are kind of fucking hilarious, but I wouldn't bank on them. It's more just like for fun. I would invest in a meme coin if you want to just like if you want to gamble. I would consider
it's
Bitcoin and Ethereum like genuine investing once you
yeah.
understand it. But investing in the meme coins is like you're just fucking
It
around.
should be short term if you're investing into meme coins. It shouldn't be something that you like
What is it called? Meme
see.
coin?
Yeah, meme
Yeah.
coins. That's just a general
Gotcha.
word for them. There's a bunch of them now.
Gotcha. Meme
But
coin.
yeah, like there's also properties behind these cryptos. Like some of them are RWAs, like they're real world assets. They can actually be used in the world. Like people hear crypto and they just think like it's all just an online thing. Like it has no real world use. But in reality, all these coins have different uses in the world. Like you wouldn't even imagine. Like healthcare, infrastructure, um, software, financial. Like they all have different uses, believe it or not. Um, so yeah, like, and also I had a couple of people question crypto, saying, "Oh, like why? What will stop the government from taking control of it?" And and I'm just like, they can't, because going back to what I said before, it's decentralized. There's nobody that can own it. It's physically impossible because it's run by a network of computers. So you'd physically have to go to like hundreds of thousands of computers all around the world at once in order to like have control of it, I guess. So it's basically impossible, and the government knows that, and the government was actually, all governments and central banks were against crypto, saying it's bad, it's for criminals. They said this ever since it first came out in 2009, 2008. And the crazy part is they were saying that, but in reality they were buying it, and they were just trying to get people away from it, that way they could buy it themselves and keep the value down, and kind of have it, just being greedy.
Right.
So let me piggyback on that for a sec.
Yeah.
So to imagine, like, to give you like a scenario to explain the difference between centralization and decentralization when it comes to security, like what Christian's saying. So something that is centralized means that there's basically like a singular point of failure that exists. Imagine a bank vault. Imagine if you wanted to go rob a bank, all the money's in the vault, right? It's
Yeah.
centralized to that one singular location. So
Right.
what Satoshi did that made Bitcoin just entirely possible, solving the Byzantine generals problem,
Which is
is
decentralized, correct?
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So so what he was saying was that, oh, if a country bans it, well, there's servers and miners in Africa and nodes running in Africa or fucking Alaska. Like, it's impossible. So the way that you should imagine something that's decentralized is, instead of a bank robber having to go to a vault to rob the and get all the stuff, imagine a bank robber had to go to door of 10,000 homes and rob at least half of them simultaneously, all at the same exact time. It's literally impossible. And that is what makes Bitcoin so special, is that that's why it's unfucking hackable.
Yeah.
So
And it's for the people.
So do you
you can
guys
hack,
think? Go ahead. Go
you
ahead.
can hack individual wallets. You
Yeah.
could hack an exchange, but to actually hack the Bitcoin network, it has never happened.
Crazy. So do you guys think eventually? Do you guys feel as if banks, money in that nature? Do you guys think, since later on down the road, I'm talking like, I don't know, maybe like 15, 20, 25, 30 years from now, do you think Bitcoin is going to be that thing that where maybe like banks and stuff aren't going to exist anymore? Do you
I
So
like
think so.
I,
you?
I have
Okay.
I have a little bit of a different take. So
Yeah.
what I was saying before was that we have this plurality of money. Like, the dollar still exists, gold still exists,
Right.
Bitcoin currently
I know where
exists.
you're going with this.
I think the world is always going to have all these different things. I think the dollar is always going to exist. I
Yeah.
just think we're going to reach this point in time where Bitcoin is like the world reserve currency, and we want to base things off
It's like the
Bitcoin.
gold, how gold used to be.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but
Like, you're
but yeah,
saying that's
obviously,
how gold, or how, so the dollar is going to turn into what gold is now.
so right now the dollar is the world reserve currency. It's what most
Okay.
people use through trade. But I
Yeah.
believe it's going to be Bitcoin, and I think it could be Bitcoin much sooner than what everyone realizes. Like 10 years.
Okay.
I
Maybe 10
agree.
years at most. And so what Christian was saying, I agree with him that governments are usually pretty fearful of Bitcoin, but I think there's going to come a time where all the governments actually realize that they stand to gain much more by adopting Bitcoin than they do than to ban it. Like right now, the United States government is like $34 trillion in debt, and
Yeah.
someone who's like pretty cynical about like the debt and what all that means might just go, who cares, we owe it to ourselves or whatever. However, we got to pay interest on the debt. So all the money that we collect in taxes, I want you to think about this. Of the 100% of money that we collect in taxes, 40% of it goes towards just paying down the debt and the interest on the debt. So what that means is that's less money to go towards roads, that's less money to go towards healthcare, that's less money to go towards social programs. Us being in a shit ton of debt is terrible. But if we adopt Bitcoin and all the other countries in the world all choose to adopt Bitcoin, it could
It's already
probably
happening.
take out a big chunk of that debt, which would
Right.
improve everyone's lives, and we would have more money to be able to do more things. So I think Bitcoin actually represents a solution for a lot of countries to be able to have a better world. Because again, if you imagine this like spectrum of money, of bad to good, imagine an economy that's based off, like I was using as a terrible example, but to illustrate like what bad money would do. Imagine a country based their money on shoes. It would
Yeah.
fucking suck. They would be in debt. They wouldn't be able to do business with each other. It would all suck. And then you have fiat dollars, and that is kind of it's what we're at now, and it works, but there's a lot of problems with money printing. It kind of is facilitating and funding war. Now imagine a world where everyone chooses to use the best money, where it stores its value the best, where it's the most secure, where everyone trusts each other. It will make the world a lot more efficient and better, and probably reduce debt and create scenarios where money is more altruistic and goes towards things that are more valuable as opposed to funding stupid shit. Like I remember reading too, like this is what happens when you have unlimited money. A private government plane. I saw someone was writing that worked on it to fix the trash can in it cost $58,000 every single year. The Pentagon they'll do an audit on their budget, and they fail the audit every single time. Like they just blow the money. It's just all gone. Like they don't deserve the money. It's terrible. It's honestly like learning about this is just shocking.
Yeah.
They don't deserve the money.
They print it, use it towards bullshit, and it
Yeah.
does not go to the people. That sucks.
In other words, we're getting fucked over.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
I love another way that Andreas Antonopoulos explains this. He's like, you're not going to get into Bitcoin. The same nerds that brought you the internet are now bringing you money, and you don't want to get into that? Like, are you serious? You'd rather use the government money instead of the nerd money.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, it looks like we're gonna be investing tonight. Yeah. No, I'm gonna invest tonight. I'm gonna invest tonight. You said even if you put in
$10.
$10.
$10. And the reason why $10 I think is great is because you'll now have bought it. You'll
Yeah.
see it. You'll see how it moves up and down. You'll
Right.
have answered your own question when you said, what am I buying? A Bitcoin of a Bitcoin?
Yeah.
You'll
Yeah.
answer that because you're going to see exactly how much Bitcoin you just got. It'll be great.
Yeah, because it is funny. Yeah, because it's just like, well, when you're buying, because it's like, because you don't necessarily see it, right? Like you can't grab it or anything.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's
not
it's
tangible.
yeah, it's like it's like weird, So that was like my biggest thing on it. It's just like
But
I didn't understand that concept because you can't grab it, you can't do
you got to
anything with
think about it too when you're using your debit card and
that. Is
everything online. When you're buying stuff
yeah,
online, you're not physically holding that.
yeah, that's true.
What's cash nowadays? No one really carries cash. We just use our phone and tap it on the screen and
That
we
is
pay for it.
true. That is true.
That's basically what crypto is in a sense.
Yeah,
This
that's
this
true.
this fucks up all the old people. where they say
Yeah.
like, oh, I can't like hold a Bitcoin or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But our generation, we should get this. The Call of Duty skin, you know, when you got the gold gun, like that's a digital thing, but it's a real thing, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we,
Yeah.
so we are really used to having digital things and understanding they have real value, even though they don't exist in the real world. Bitcoin
Yeah.
is no different. It's just like that.
Yeah. Exactly. Do
Man,
you
that was
have any questions, Fred? Is there anything that like?
Nah, not necessarily. I think the questions that I did have, you guys pretty much answered it, as far as like it's not tangible, and you made you was like, well, when you use your card, I mean, that's not you're not really grabbing the money, you know what I mean? Or like
Yeah.
you know, I think the questions that I asked, it was like I said, they were really like surface level because I'm just an outsider looking in. So all I can really ask is kind of, surface level questions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which
Because
is good.
it's like yeah, it's just like basic questions that I'm sure other people, would ask. You know what I mean? Like what is cryptocurrency? What is Bitcoin? How do you invest in Bitcoin?
Yeah.
So yeah, and then you guys pretty much filled in the blanks as far as going into depth, going into detail on a bunch of like the other shit. And like I said, the chart, um, I'm gonna actually post a chart. I'll edit it, post a chart so people can actually see it. So
I
yeah,
got a
I
fun
mean,
question for
huh?
you. I said I got a fun question someone might ask.
Yeah.
Usually the first one is like, how much do you think one Bitcoin will eventually be worth?
Well,
And
didn't I
so
kind of ask that question? I was like,
Maybe you were trying to ask that question.
yeah, I could have sworn it was like along those lines, where I was like pretty much like when you're investing into a Bitcoin, like like what like how do you know how much Bitcoin you're
Okay.
getting? You know what I'm saying? Like,
So
isn't
you
that
you
kind of like
buy
this?
it you buy it at the price of what it is. You'll
yeah,
see it
Yeah,
like he just showed it 67,000. So you buy $100. You bought $100 worth of Bitcoin at 67,000. But if the
yes.
price of it goes up,
yeah. So
you profit from that.
so wouldn't a Bitcoin pretty much be like infinite if that's the case?
So this is the Bitcoin price. It's a little bit more complicated than this, but it's not really.
Yeah,
Um, the price of one Bitcoin is very much tied to how much money is people are deciding to hold their wealth in Bitcoin. So like
Yeah.
it's like 1.2 trillion dollars.
It's
That
called a
that's
market cap, right?
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the price of Bitcoin always fucks people up. I would way prefer that everyone would talk about market cap because
Yeah, I
when I
agree.
say when I say one Bitcoin is 67,000, someone goes, "Holy shit, that's as much as it costs." But when I say its market cap is still like 15 times less than what gold is, people go, "Oh, so it's not that expensive," and they're right
What it
because
the market cap of Bitcoin is what, about 2 trillion, I think?
I think it's only like 1.2 trillion.
Okay, 1.2. I thought it
but
was
that's always
2.
going to go up, correct?
As long as people are putting money into it, yeah.
Okay.
So that's like
It
the total amount of money that is allocated into just Bitcoin. So the crypto space, I believe, how big it's two, yeah, it's a little over $2 trillion in the Bitcoin space as a whole.
Yeah.
As Bitcoin itself has half of that worth, 1.2 trillion. So Bitcoin itself holds 50% of the whole market cap of crypto as a whole, if that makes sense.
yeah.
It's a lot.
It
And the crazy part is it's not even mainstream yet. It's still very small. Not and a lot of people. What is it, like less than 5% of the world that uses crypto, that is invested in crypto? And the stock
yeah.
market, how big is the stock market? What is it, 50 trillion or
Probably more than
market
that
cap?
actually.
Is it more than that?
Yeah,
Something like that. It's a big amount, but basically, yeah, the crypto space is very small compared to like stock market. So it's still very early. So people that think, oh, like it's too late, like Bitcoin's at 60 something thousand, it's too late. Well, if we're telling you that the market cap as crypto a whole is this much and stock market is this much,
Yeah.
and on top of that there's banks and institutions, and the wealthiest people in the world are putting a ton of their money into it, is the price of the whole crypto space, no matter what you put your money into, is just going to go up, as long as it's not a like shit coin that eventually could get rug pulled or something.
So all the Bitcoin is worth like 1.2 trillion. All the gold is worth like 15 trillion, somewhere in that neighborhood, right? So if all the Bitcoin end up being worth 15 trillion, which is just as good as gold, but as I said before, it's a better store of value, it's a better medium exchange, it should be worth more than gold in my opinion over a long time frame. What that means is if it just matches gold, the price of one Bitcoin will be, as of right now, like $830,000.
Well,
Yeah.
So if that gives you an example of where this could go. So
Yeah.
let's say everyone decides one Bitcoin is worth twice as much as all the gold. So that means the price of one Bitcoin will be like $1.6 million, which means that if you invested $100, that would
yeah.
be like 30 times more. $100 could turn into 3,000 on a long
That's
time
fucking
frame,
crazy.
or
Yeah.
$10,000 could turn into $300,000.
And honestly, I think personally, this is just my opinion, that Bitcoin is a better investment for like a retirement compared to like a pension fund or something. Just for the simple fact that where the dollar and fiat currency is trending, and I eventually see the fall of banks and everything happening. So it's not too safe to trust putting your money in banks and leaving it in there in general.
I think I agree with Bitcoin is, I think, is going to crush everything. Like it's still not close to like its fair value. It's still worth way less than gold. I think the most exciting thing to invest in is cryptocurrency, and until it's like worth at least as much as gold, I just don't really think there's really anything else out there that's worth investing in.
Yeah, and it's crazy because there's news made every day about crypto, like huge news. Like I just mentioned, like there's banks that make a living off fiat currency. They're exchanging what makes them money and a living, and what gives them power. They're exchanging their currency for Bitcoin, something that takes away their power. So like, why would these banks and all these rich people and globalists be trading their money for something that potentially endangers their power? It's because they know they can't do nothing about it, and it's real value, and they can't do nothing to stop it. They just got to go with it.
Well, we're investing tonight, boys.
That's great.
I mean, I do definitely, I be seeing a lot of like cryptocurrency news and stuff like that, Bitcoin news, and I personally don't pay attention to it at all because I just was uneducated. I really didn't know, or didn't know anything about it. But this kind of definitely shines some light on what I've pretty much been missing out. So what I'm getting from this is just to fucking invest. Like at
Yeah,
the end of
and
the
you're
day,
still you're
like
still
just
early. And
yeah.
right now is actually a great time to invest for the simple fact of the time in this cycle we're in. We're about to
But
be starting a good.
I guess that's another question I should ask. So is there ever like a bad time to start or get in? Are you ever too late
It
to
may.
start?
I would say that's a tough question because the way cycles work. So our crypto cycle usually lasts about what 3 to 4 years, Matt. A cycle for
Yeah.
crypto, yeah, it's about 4 years, I'll say. So usually there's a certain amount of time in that cycle. I'll say what 2.5 years. There's a period where everything is down. So it's bearish. It's a bearish market. So the price of everything is just down. It's boring. No one's like looking into it. Like it's not
Yeah.
getting any headlines or nothing. It's not being talked about. That is the best time you want to invest. Is when it's a bear market, when no one is talking about it, the price is down. because when you invest in that and it looks boring, eventually there's always at that point in the cycle, which is usually lasts about a year and a half, where the
Right.
price of everything just goes parabolic, it explodes. So if you
Gotcha.
were a smart investor, you would invest at the point in time of the cycle where everything is down. That way, when that other part of the cycle happens, you're very profitable, and you'll thank yourself for being patient, which is a huge um, something big. You want to be patient in investing. That's like the number one thing. You can't
Gotcha.
expect to just make money overnight. If that's your mindset, then you're just better off not investing.
Instant
Yeah,
gratification.
yeah, it's like sports betting. Like I'm a big sports better as well, so I can't say
Yeah.
much. But like, I know when I bet on sports, that's money I'm like risking. As to like money I
Right.
put into crypto, I know it's in a better space. So
Yeah.
people out there that are sports betting, instead of putting your money into bets, just invest it into crypto. I promise you'll thank yourself later.
Coming from one of the biggest sports bettors out there.
Yeah, literally.
I only bet very little on sports because there's like this arbitrage in the middle where they end up winning like 10% every single time. Like they set up the odds usually to where they
Yep,
profit no matter who wins.
yep.
Yeah.
But Bitcoin is vastly different. I would say, as far as the timing is concerned, there's only
Yeah.
really one rule, in my opinion, with investing in cryptocurrency. You wait. That's it. You cannot
Patience.
be one of these people who get in and then a month later you sell. That's some bullshit. That's not how this works. If you look at any like 4 year time horizon in Bitcoin, if you bought, held, waited 4 years, you made big money every single time. So Warren Buffett has this very famous saying that he wouldn't own a stock for 10 minutes if he wouldn't own it for 10 years. And it's really
Mm,
just to kind of illustrate the point that he's only going to buy things that he genuinely believes in. So,
got you.
so that's the idea. You buy it and you wait. And so what this also does is it makes you invest the right amounts as well. See, I could have went all in 2013, and I theoretically on paper I would be super rich. However, I would have not been able to mentally withstand the ups and downs of everything. However,
Yeah,
because I only did like 10%, which was, still a pretty significant amount, but it was always, I could handle the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs that exist with crypto. Most
Right.
people would go nuts if they went all in. So when you have a plan where you're investing a little bit at a time,
Yeah.
when it's down, it's like, oh, I'm getting more Bitcoin each time. And when it goes up, I mean, you're profiting, and that's cool too. So that's my strategy. That's what I would say. And the other thing too is, if I'm saying that one Bitcoin could be worth 15 times more, any time is a good time to buy. There are times where Christian's right, where the market sentiment is like, the way I like to look at it, I was grinning when you guys were saying this. When everyone starts thinking, when my group chat starts thinking I'm an idiot, that's when I buy.
yeah. So you want to buy when everyone is fearful, when
Yeah.
everyone's scared of it, like, oh, it's gonna go to zero. That's when you want to buy, and then you want to sell if you're a short-term investor, in a sense, or even just trading off for a little bit of profit just to be safe. You want to sell when people get greedy, basically, when the price goes up, and then people are like, oh, and then it starts getting on the news, and everything, it's just put out there. That's usually when you want to sell and make some profit. So basically just go against the masses.
When it went from 1,000 all the way up to 20,000, right? I bought, you know, at 1,000, 3,000, 5,000, 15,000. Then it dropped and went all the way down to 3,000. I was an idiot again, even though, it was worth 3 times more than what I
Yep,
bought it for. So I
yep.
was buying at 3,000 and 4,000. Then it ran all the way up to 70,000. I was a genius. And then it dropped down to 15,000. I was an idiot again. And I was
And you
buying
kept
at
buying.
17,000,
Yep.
18,000, 19,000, 23,000, 26,000. So like you can kind of time it based on the
Yeah.
sentiment, but the only thing that I would say is, although there are cycles with this, there aren't any rules. It doesn't have to follow the cycle. Everyone
Yeah.
could realize that Bitcoin is getting adopted and governments could adopt it. Like Donald Trump was just recently talking about how they might want to hold some in reserve. If the United States does that,
The United
Bitcoin is
States already
$1
does
million.
hold Bitcoin though. Yeah, the United States does hold Bitcoin though.
They confiscated it, and they have about $200,000 in confiscation.
Okay, yeah.
But
Also, El Salvador inherited Bitcoin as well. I don't know if you knew that.
they
I'm sure you
they
did.
hold in reserve. They
They're
literally, yeah.
yeah, they literally use it as their currency, like 100% backed by it, and their government, everything's backed by Bitcoin. So that's pretty cool seeing it actually used and being, inherited by a whole country, and they're thriving. They're thriving off of it too. So
One other thing that I think someone might say is a criticism towards Bitcoin, and I think they really just don't understand like how money all really works. Usually the cynical argument against Bitcoin is like, well, people aren't really using it for like daily transactions. People aren't using it to buy coffee or whatever. But I want you to think about what you want your money to do. On any day-to-day time frame, you might spend $50 on like food, gas, stuff like that. But the majority of your money you want is held in like a savings account or your checking account or whatever. The real big breakthrough with Bitcoin is store of value proposition. Medium exchange, it works, and that's why it will get big. But the store of value proposition is really the important thing. You want to make sure across time that your money maintains its value or goes up in value. And that is where Bitcoin is changing the game for every single person in the world, and especially people in places where their country inflates their money at really high rates. We have finally started to experience that a higher inflation rate in the United States over the last 4 years. We've seen how quickly prices have changed. In Venezuela, so at their stores, at like their grocery stores, so you know how like they'll show the price, it'll be like $5.69, but it's like an analog version of it. They have digital versions because the price of their shit changes each day.
Dude,
yeah,
fuck that.
So
I've
when they
seen it.
get their
Yeah,
money and get paid, they go to the store and spend all of it immediately because if they wait 10 days, it could be worth 10% less.
that's actually crazy because I came across something,
Bro,
and I believe
what?
it was. I came across something, and I believe it was in Nigeria or something. Their money is called like the Nairu or something, but there's like $100 trillion bill over there. Like that just shows where inflation is. And like people are saying, oh, like the dollar is strong. The dollar is strong. Yeah, the dollar is the strongest currency in the world, but that doesn't say much. That just me telling you about Nigeria shows you how bad it is in other countries. Just the dollar is went down not what 97% since it came off the gold standard. So
Bro,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
yeah,
There was a reporter from the United States who went to I think it was like an African country, and they had a wheelbarrow of money, and they saw how much money was in it, and the reporter said to him like, "Aren't you afraid someone's going to steal your money?" And they responded back and said, "No, I'm afraid someone's going to steal my wheelbarrow." Because that's how
that's
poor,
true.
how useless and like valueless their money has become.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
and
United States does not experience anything like that, and I'm not making that comparison, but it
Look,
has
man,
accelerated.
there's no dollar menu anymore. I think
Dude, the fast food prices are like the most fucked over the last like 12 years. It's
oh
crazy.
yeah, they
the
Now
what?
I've
consider
been
it a
vegan
luxury
for
actually.
The what you said? Is
Fast food,
Oh
it's
yeah,
really
yeah.
changed. Like I remember, I haven't had
Horrible.
McDonald's in almost 10 years. So I was buying McDoubles for $1.06. And like I think it was my brother that was like, yeah, it's like $4 now. I'm like, what?
Dude, yeah. I think
yeah.
I think I was telling Jen that. I said, or I forget who I was, or maybe it was Anthony Terranova. I was like, bro, I said, we're fucked when there's no more dollar menu. Like there's if with no more dollar, and yeah, it's if you want to make double, it's like damn near $3 now. Like I remember working at McDonald's back then, and you can literally like I remember people would come in and like get so many McChickens, so many McDoubles, and yeah, you're only spending $1 for each one, so you could feed like 10 fucking families like off of like $30. Now, like going to McDonald's now, spending $30, all you're gonna get is probably like 2 Big Mac meals. Like
Yeah.
you're better off just eating at a 5-star restaurant at that
Yeah.
point. Like
No, seriously.
The thing that's
it makes no sense at
the
all.
thing that's really kind of concerning about this is it's also not now when people talk about inflation they might think like I'm picking like a political side here, but if you look at like the last 3 presidents, each one has spent more than the next. Like it's just accelerating, and it doesn't matter whether it's Republican or Democrat. Like this is a fiat money, this is a government money problem. This is a
Yeah.
problem with our money as opposed to one political side. One side might do it a little bit more than the other, but it's not really the answer. The answer is we got to fix the money so they're not able to do things like that.
Gotcha. So I guess I can start wrapping this up.
Yeah, if you don't have any more questions.
Yeah, I'm good. I think for the most part you guys answered all. Well, you guys did answer all the questions that I did have. And like I said 30 minutes ago, yeah, like I know my questions were very like surface level, but you guys pretty much bridged the gap and kind of went more in depth into a bunch of other stuff that maybe someone who's tuning in probably had that question. So I would say this definitely helped. And like I said earlier, we're going to be investing tonight, boys. So that's what we're going to do. You have anything to say, Christian? You good?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I mean, the only thing I could say is definitely just look into it.
Yeah.
Do your research. It's like I said, it's financial literacy. Why wouldn't you want to know how money works or where the future is going?
Well, it's important. And like you said earlier,
Yeah,
how school doesn't really teach us any of this shit at all. You kind of have to do your research and kind of just go out of your own way to understand exactly how money works, how currency works, the in and outs of everything. So
yeah,
yeah, just gotta do my
yeah.
research.
Yeah, so definitely do your research. Get to know the technology behind Bitcoin and crypto in general. You'll actually be pretty interested once you start learning a little bit. You'll just want to know more. Um,
Yeah.
at least that's how
I
it
mean,
is
it
for
is
me. I
money. It's
just
money.
yeah, exactly.
It's
Like,
money.
yeah,
we all want to be rich,
yeah, yeah.
Matt, you have
But
anything
yeah,
to
that's
say?
it.
Yeah, just no, I agree. I think again the opportunity is there to where a very significant amount of money can really be made with this, and everyone's
Yeah.
looking for opportunities to make more money.
Oh, this is
And
the
this is
perfect
kind of
opportunity for that. Yeah,
yeah, and I think its success is almost to me inevitable. Like I think it's just you just see how people are like supercharged to make this thing happen. I think
Right.
it's kind of the effect of like open source software, open source money, to where it invites anyone in and people can work on it together, and it's just too important. So
Right.
it's either like you can choose to not pay attention to this, and that's fine, I suppose. But this
you're
is
gonna
something
regret
that,
it.
yeah, I think
It's
this is something that
good.
has the opportunity to really change your life in a great way, and it doesn't require too much of you.
Yeah. And
Gotcha.
and I'm gonna just finish off by saying like this will be crypto. This will be like the greatest wealth transfer in history. Like there's people that can literally change their lives if you start investing, and it's not too late. So whoever thinks it's too late to start investing, it's not. It's actually very early. So take that with a grain of salt. But at the end of the day, me, Matt, Fred, we're not financial advisors. You know, we're not
Yeah.
telling you how to spend your money or, so just getting that out the way.
Right. But if it makes sense, why not, right?
Oh, oh,
But yeah, so I'm gonna wrap this up. Once again, this is the Fred D. Borgia Show, episode 16, I believe. And I want to just thank Christian, because Christian, you actually brought this up for us to do. And I really want to thank Matt as well for being on here, sharing what he knows, his information, sharing Christian, same thing with you, sharing
it's
what
hard to
you
come
know.
across people that like have the same type of interest, especially when it comes to crypto. Like I can't barely find anybody that I can talk to openly about crypto without them like shying away from it or just like I don't care. It's just like wow, like okay. So yeah,
My
it's
friend,
just good.
a lot of my friends, they kick themselves every single day that when I was telling them when the price was $1,000, I'm like, hey, you should buy this, and they didn't. And it was because they didn't spend the time to learn about it. Now, someone who's learning about this today, it's only 67,000. I think it's going to 1,000,000. You're gonna kick yourself if you don't
I
learn
think it's
this.
going to
It's $1 million.
100 million or more,
Yeah, at
honestly.
least.
Yeah,
I genuinely believe at least.
yeah. So
Well, it's not too late, so that's why I'm going to be investing tonight. So I'm not. I was definitely one of them people, but I'm not going to say I'm kicking myself right now. However, I will say I should have hopped on board. I will say that. But
same.
hey, it's not too late, so we're going to invest tonight. So that's that.
I love it.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys for being on here. Like I said, sharing the information, and whoever is tuning in, I hope this helped you, like it helped me. And Matt, the stuff that you were talking about earlier, like if you could just send me the link, and I could just like link it down in the description, and that'll help whoever's
Yeah.
tuning into this, any newcomers who's tuning into this and want to know more about it.
They can also reach out to me personally on either Instagram or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
I
gonna
can
be
I can
reaching
even
out to you.
Yeah.
yeah, I can even I can just put all that shit down in the description. You know what I mean? So that's not a problem. You would just have to send me all of it. But but yeah, we're gonna end it there. Once again, thank you, Christian. Thank you, Matt. And this is episode 16. Thank you for tuning in, guys. And this was definitely one that needed to be done. I'll
Yes,
catch you guys
sir.
later.
I don't know.
Peace.